Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this morning's sessions. There was some really stimulating debate and discussion about the transformation of homelessness services and the route towards rapid rehousing. So I hope that you got as much from those sessions as I certainly did. I'm really pleased now that we're going to hear from our day sponsor, which is the National Lottery Community Fund here in Wales. The National Lottery Community Fund has really been on a journey with us around homelessness over the past couple of years and really shown a desire to use the funding that it has at its disposal to have a real impact on homelessness in Wales. Like the rest of us, entered a period of reflection when COVID hit about what the future might hold and what might look differently as a result of COVID. And I'm really pleased that Roffe is here today to tell us a bit more about that funding. I'm sure many of you will be aware of it. Hopefully some of you have put expressions of interest in to take part in some of that funding going forward. But I'd like to welcome Rob to share his views on the Ending Homelessness Fund and how the National Lottery Community Fund is going to help us to go on that journey to end homelessness in Wales. Rob, thank you.
Thanks very much, Katie. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for the opportunity to provide you all with a short update on the Helping End Homelessness programme. So over the course of the next 10 minutes, I'd just like to provide you with a reminder of what Helping End Homelessness is all about, including its aims, its priorities and its beneficiaries, explain how we had to pause and review the programme to account for the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on people who are homeless and the organisations that support them, and also to provide a quick reminder of the application process and to give you an update on where the programme currently is and what the next steps will be. So in terms of programme overview, what is Helping End Homelessness? Well, in a nutshell, it's a £10 million programme that will fund a limited number of strategic projects across Wales that aim to make homelessness rare, brief and non-recurrent. Delivered by multi-agency partnerships, we hope that they will offer person-centred support that balances preventative and responsive approaches while being flexible enough to respond to the fast-changing environment that's been brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. Anyone who is experiencing or is at risk of being homeless can benefit from the programme. And while there will be individuals who have characteristics that place them at greater risk, there's no need for anyone to be on the statutory agency's priority list. Through the programme, we aim to bring together people who've been affected by homelessness with the third and public sector organisations and also the private rented sector to co-design projects that will also take into account the phase 2 local authority plans that have been developed in response to the pandemic after that announcement of additional money from the Welsh Government. So as well as being additional to existing provision, we envisage projects that recognise that homelessness is just one of many challenges that people are trying to overcome in their lives, and that hopefully those projects will provide holistic support to address those needs. So with a strong focus on homelessness prevention, we also expect the funded projects to work towards reducing the discrimination experienced by those who are homeless by encouraging empathy and understanding through a trauma-informed approach, both within statutory services and the wider community at large too. And as you would expect of a programme of this nature, there's also a requirement on projects to add to the evidence base of effective approaches by carrying out an evaluation of their activities to inform other policymakers and service commissioners. So taken together, this represents a funding programme that wants to prioritise service innovation, person-centred support, reducing discrimination, trauma-informed environments, prevention, and working with private sector landlords and tenants. We're also interested in hearing from applicants who want to tackle rural homelessness too, about which less seems to be known. So that's the programme. In terms of its sort of journey, it's been a bit bumpy, not least because of the pandemic. And the programme was launched just before COVID-19 hit us. So this caused us to pause the programme, for two primary reasons. Firstly, organisations wouldn't have much time to collaborate to develop applications when they needed to be focused on responding to the immediacy of the pandemic and its impact. And secondly, we needed to take account of the rapid and evolving changes to the funding and policy landscape so that the programme remained relevant and additional to the changing context. So we spoke to several organisations about the impact of the pandemic, including the Welsh Government, local authorities, third sector organisations. And in spite of the significant additional money that was going to be made available, it became clear early on that this money was time limited, that it had to be front loaded in terms of spend, and that it was going to focus heavily on capital. It all pointed towards there being a continuing need for larger strategic place-based grants over a longer period. And there was limited appetite or perceived need for changing the programme aims and priorities, as well as having that continual financial need going on into the longer term. So on the back of the review, the changes that we ended up instigating were quite minimal. Without the certainty of longer term Welsh Government funding, we placed more emphasis on revenue funding while still retaining the ability to invest in capital where it was needed. Now, applicants would need to consider the phase 2 plans that were drawn up by local authorities in order to access the additional funding that the Welsh Government announced, but we recognise the importance of ensuring that they did not become the sole focus of any project that we funded. So development grant funding will be important in ensuring that the voices of the third sector and crucially the beneficiaries were heard and considered during application development. Finally, the review further confirmed our belief in the value of preventative approaches and provided an opportunity to sharpen up the existing aims and priorities to better reflect the Housing Action Group report, which was published in full shortly after the programme had first launched just over a year ago. Crucially, the review brought much needed time for frontline organisations to respond to the pandemic. And when we did reopen the programme, it was on the understanding that we would need to maintain flexibility in the face of that ongoing uncertainty. And it certainly continues to be an interesting journey. In terms of the application process and next steps, there's no maximum grant size, as we don't want to restrict the ambition and scale of the successful projects, and we expect them all to run for between 5 and 7 years. Of course, this means that there's going to be some tough decisions to be made, and the reality is that we'll only be able to fund 3, maybe 4 projects through the programme. You know, while 10 million is a significant investment, the scale of the challenge is such that it always means that you can always spend more money, but unfortunately, we've just got that 10 million. There are 2 stages to the application and decision-making process. There's an expression of interest stage and a full application stage. Now, the expressions of interest, or the EOIs, have to be submitted by the 12th of January. And our team has been busy assessing them with a view to inviting those that are successful to submit a full project application at stage 2. An EOI required you to outline the details of your proposed partnership, highlight the local challenges that you intend to address, and explain how you will involve beneficiaries in the co-design of your project idea. Applicants can also use it as an opportunity to request that development grant of up to £50,000 to help develop those full applications if they are successful. We are using the EOI to ensure that applications are being made by multi-organisational partnerships that are drawn from the third public and private sectors, that they cover one or more local authority areas, that they include the relevant local authorities as partners, and that they are led by a well-placed third sector organisation. We're going to be contacting applicants at the end of March to let them know if they've been successful and whether or not they can submit a full application. It's only fair that I stress that even where expressions of interest are successful, there's absolutely no guarantee that the resulting full project proposal will be successful at the second stage. It will remain a competitive process with only the best projects being funded. Successful EOI applicants will then have until the 14th of September to submit their full project applications, with final decisions being taken by the National Lottery Community Fund in November this year. So that's probably just about all from me, other than to say I found this probably to be one of the most challenging but most rewarding programmes that I've ever worked on during my time at the fund. I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of inspirational people, both within the organisation supporting people who are homeless, but also those individuals themselves who've been there, who've experienced it, you know, and especially individuals who've turned their lives around and have displayed the sort of resilience that, you know, I certainly wouldn't have been able to demonstrate. So thank you all for your interest. Thank you for your time today. and I certainly look forward to seeing the project being delivered later this year. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Rob. It was great to hear about the Helping End Homelessness Fund. We're really excited to see what projects come out of this and to continue working with you to make that impact on top of any government or statutory funding that comes through. I think that your fund has got a really important role to play, and it's been a pleasure working with you on this. So thank you, everyone. I hope that you found that really interesting. I'm sure you'll all be keeping your eyes out for the results of that expression of interest rounds. I know that many of you will have been part of those partnership bids. We're going to end this session now. So if you want to come to the next session, which is about integrating homelessness, mental health and substance misuse services, please go back onto the agenda section of Hoover and click on that section, and we'll be joining that in 5 minutes' time. Thank you very much, Rob. It's been great having you here today, and thank you very much for sponsorship of our Transforming Homelessness Day. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Thanks very much, Katie. More than welcome. Thank you.